Dear 11th graders, welcome to our digital library. My name is Dr. Munca-Aftenev, and today I'm going to be a virtual teacher. Today's topic is cinematic universes, and you will soon find out what this means. But before that, I prepared a few mind-blowing facts related to the movie industry. What is mind-blowing? I'm sure you have heard this word before. It refers to something that is intensely affecting the mind or emotions, overwhelming, astounding, staggering. So, are you ready for fun facts that will definitely blow your mind? Let's get it started. Did you know that the famous movie Up used real balloons, up to 10,297 balloons? The animators who created the pack of balloons in Up actually created every single one according to the film's effects artist John Raitt. Isn't that amazing? Yes, real balloons, 10,000 pieces. Henry Cavill, that is one of my favorite actors, and you probably know why, refused any digital touch-ups or enhancement to his body. He said it would have been dishonest of him to use trickery while playing Superman. And he wanted to push his body to the limits to develop his physique into one that was worthy of the character. That's definitely admirable if you ask me. So, digital touch-ups, if you don't know what that means, it refers to something that is improved by making minor corrections, changes, or additions. I think Henry Cavill was and he is a very talented actor, and he did a really good job with this role, and he definitely didn't need any more touch-ups. Now, Nestle provided 1,850 bars of real chocolate for the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie. Isn't that exciting? Yes, it is, especially if you're a chocolate lover, just like I am. Now, Titanic, one of the most famous movies of all times. Did you know that the whole movie has a total length of 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is the exact time it took for Titanic to sink? Also, the collision with the iceberg reportedly lasted 37 seconds, which is how long the collision scene is in the movie. So, speaking of doing things perfectly or paying attention to details, that is amazing. Dracula, the very first edition, because you know there are so many Dracula movies now. Dracula was filmed in English during the day and in Spanish at night. Why? When the 1931 movie Dracula was being shot, it was common for foreign language films to take over the set at night and shoot their own versions instead of dubbing over them later. So they had to do double work. And by the way, the Spanish version apparently was much more popular than the English version. Now, Matrix. This is my husband's favorite movie or trilogy. So you remember those green numbers or symbols that have become iconic. Now those complex looking green digits scrolling down the screen in the Matrix may look like mysterious codes, but in fact they were symbols taken from a sushi cookbook. Yes, believe it or not, scanned by the movie's production designer. Well, that's what I call creativity. One afternoon, during a break in filming, Arnold Schwarzenegger went into a restaurant in downtown LA to get some lunch and realized that, and it was too late, he was still in Terminator's makeup with a missing eye, just like you can see on your screen, exposed jawbone and burned flesh. You can imagine the effect that had on the visitors of that LA restaurant. Now, another mind-blowing fact. Did you know that Michael Jackson was so much into Spider-Man that he tried to actually buy Marvel Corporation so he could star in Spider-Man movies that he would direct himself? That's an interesting dream. Do you think he would have made a good job as Spider-Man? And now we are going to talk about universes, cinema universes, and what they refer to. So, what do all these superheroes have in common? Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Thor, Wolverine, Ant-Man, Black Panther, Deadpool, X-Men, Fantastic Four, the Guardians of the Galaxy. All these fictional characters operate in a single reality known as the Marvel Universe, created by Marvel Entertainment, a company acquired, by the way, one thing that I didn't know, by the Walt Disney Company in 2009. So Marvel Entertainment is, and this is what I want you to pay attention to, the highest grossing film franchise of all time, having grossed over 22.5 billion at the global box office. A lot of new words. These include Avengers Endgame, which is the highest grossing film of all time. Kevin Feige has produced every film in the series, but the films are written and directed by a variety of individuals, and many of the actors, such as Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, and Jeremy Renner, signed contracts to star in numerous films. So they actually have a very long-term contract, and they're supposed to appear in several films, which is a very good long-term plan. So what is a franchise? As you know, Marvel includes comic books, short films, television series, and digital series. So all of that is an example of a franchise, which refers to a collection of related media in which several derivative works have been produced from an original creative work of fiction, such as a film, a work of literature, a television program, or a video game. So this is what franchise is. Now, another interesting thing is that Marvel has phases and plans all the movies in big phases. And so far it has planned 4 of them. Marvel Studios released its films in groups, right? As I mentioned, phases. For example, the first phase includes Iron Man, which was distributed by Paramount Pictures. Also, in this phase we have Thor and Captain America, the First Avenger from 2011. Universal Pictures distributed The Incredible Hulk. So as you can see, Marvel Entertainment has a collaboration with Paramount Pictures and Universal Pictures. That's why it's a franchise. Phase 2, for example, comprises Thor, The Dark World from 2013, Guardians of the Galaxy from 2014, Avengers Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man from 2015, and so on and so forth. So Marvel Cinematic Universe is officially the highest earning franchise in movie history, outperforming, by the way, both the Star Wars and Harry Potter movie series combined. Why is Marvel so popular? Its strong, charismatic, psychologically complex characters and multiple genres covered simultaneously are just one factor. So, my dear 11th graders, how do you feel about Marvel characters? Do you have any famous superheroes? What do you think is the secret of their success on the world market? This is what the experts say. The secret seems to be finding the right balance between creating innovative films and retaining enough continuity to make them all recognizable, part of a coherent family. Marvel makes sure its heroes develop from one film to the next, adding crumbs, leading to an even bigger story to come. It took Marvel a great amount of planning to develop close interpersonal relationship with this group of heroes. Its characters are ever evolving. They are never static or oversimplified. I definitely agree with the experts, and I believe that we get attached to these actors, to these heroes, just because we see them in several movies, and they're never the same. They can put on weight like Thor, they can change their personality like Iron Man, they evolve, they create new friendships. Sometimes they fight, sometimes they fall in love with each other. So in any way, they're very similar to us, regular human beings, even though they have magic powers. Now, let's move on to the key vocabulary that I want you to pay attention to. So, highest grossing film, right? The verb to gross, it means to earn as a total income or profit before deduction. So, Marvel, right, is the highest grossing franchise, which means they have made most money total after, right, or before deducting any taxes, for example. Box office. It refers to a total attendance of an entertainment or turnout. This is how movies compete against each other. Which movie has had more people watching it, right? So we're talking about turnout, which means people that go and watch the movie in the cinemas when the movie is released. It also refers to the amount of money received from ticket sales for an entertainment, right? Coherent, right? All the stories are coherent. All the sequels, all the episodes within different phases are linked to each other. So it creates a coherent link, marked by an orderly, logical, and aesthetically consistent relation of parts. For example, I'm sure all your teachers want you to write coherent essays, which means everything you write All the paragraphs, all the sentences should make sense as a total and should be logically connected with each other. Now, how do you feel about Marvel characters? Do you have a favorite superhero? Do you think people love Marvel movies more than, for example, other movies like Star Wars or Harry Potter? What is the secret, in your opinion, of their worldwide success? Now, let's move on to more exciting vocabulary. Popcorn movie. Have you ever used this phrase? Now, I think you should. Popcorn movie refers to something that you want to watch just for fun. So it's a movie that's not very deep, not very profound, not very complex, but that helps us to get out of the routine and just relax one evening. All right? Now, break a leg. I'm sure you have heard about this expression. Now I'm going to explain why break a leg means in fact the opposite. So, many actors are superstitious and they believe that if you wish them good luck, the opposite will happen. And that's why their friends tell them to break a leg before, for example, they go on stage, which metaphorically means to have good luck. Weird, but true. To make a clown of yourself. So sometimes you can make a clown of yourself if you make a mistake, without planning it, let's say, or you're not intentionally trying to make people laugh or make people be happy about what you're performing. This is an expression that is not usually used in a positive way because it's not done intentionally, right? So, by no fault of your own, you end up making a clown of yourself. Or, a synonym is to look like a fool. For example, Ada was so scared to make a clown of herself that she ended up doing a terrible job at her performance anyway. That's a good example. To be in the limelight. For example, I have just watched the Netflix The Crown series, and in the 4th season, you can see Princess Diana and how she is in the limelight and how she is coping with that interest of paparazzi and media. So to be in the limelight means to be in the public eye. This means that there are people who actually care more about your personal life aside from the work that you do. Because of this, you will likely to have paparazzi and reporters around you often. And this is what happens to a lot of celebrities, and it's not always pleasant. Dylan tried to avoid the publicity as much as possible, but he was in the limelight all the time because of his new major hit movie. To steal the show. So, if you get more attention from the audience, even though you did not intend it at the beginning, then you definitely steal the show. For example, when our teacher had to bring his son to class with him one day, his son stole the show with how cute and entertaining he was. And now let's move on to talking about some interesting examples of movies and using some more complex vocabulary. For example, my husband has just watched the second Wonder movie and he wasn't very impressed. And so we could say that the first movie was a hit, but the sequel bombed. So describing a movie as a hit means it's popular and successful. A sequel is another movie that continues the story or theme of a previous movie. For example, Toy Story 2, you're very familiar with this one, is a sequel to Toy Story. If you say a movie bombed, it means it was a failure. It was not popular or successful. So, dear 11th graders, have you watched both Wonder Woman movies? What is your opinion of the sequels? Do you think the sequel bombed or it rocked? Now, one of my favorites is the Iron Man series. And every time I watched any of those movies, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. What I mean is, and this idiomatic expression refers to the fact that I was very interested in the movie because the movie was very exciting. And I was so involved with the movie that I sat, literally speaking, on the edge of my seat to get closer to the action. So, dear 11th graders, have you recently watched a movie that made you be on the edge of your seat the whole time? Rated. By the way, some of my teenager students are very much into Bird Box, and I know it was a very popular movie last year, but honestly, I would not recommend this movie to children or teenagers. Why? Because it's R-rated. What does it mean, rated? Many countries have a system for rating movies, evaluating how appropriate the movie is for various ages. So, if a movie is rated G, means general audience, it means that the movie is appropriate for all ages. For example, Spider-Man, why not? Or Shrek, fun for everyone. Or Frozen, you can watch it with your family. Now, if the movie is rated PG, parental guidance suggested, it means that it may contain some mild violence. And if it's an R-rated movie, it means that it's restricted. And kids under 17 must be accompanied by a parent or guardian because the film has strong violence, drug use, or very crude language. And of course, we have NC-17, which means adults only. Right? So next time when you choose a movie, make sure you check this part. It's rating. Now, have you seen the trailer for the final part of the trilogy? So, what is a trilogy? It's a series of 3 movies. For example, The Lord of the Rings or for example, my husband's favorite Matrix trilogy. So, a trailer is a 2-3 minute video summary of a movie, showing a few scenes that will interest people in seeing the entire movie. So, trailer and trilogy are 2 other words that I want you to remember from today's video lesson. Now, I want you to look at this list of words, adjectives, most of them, that we can use to describe a movie that we liked or a movie that we recently watched. The movie can be first-rate. It could be charming, enjoyable, sensitive, powerful, surprising, imaginative, comical, fascinating, legendary, clever, charismatic, original, absorbing, intriguing, pleasant, thought-provoking. But I'm sure you are familiar with these words. But I also created words that might be new for you. So tender, it refers to something that arouses warm feeling, like touching. Insightful, wise, penetrating, knowledgeable, that makes you think deep about the subject of that movie. Uproarious means causing laughter, hilarious, very, very funny, right? Riveting, wholly absorbing or engrossing one's attention, fascinating, gripping, absorbing. At the beginning of the lesson, we used mind-blowing. Dazzling, it means to something that is shining, like diamonds, for example. It refers to attractive, impressive, brilliant, amazing movies. And unpretentious is the exact opposite of dazzling, modest, simple, and plain. For example, one of my favorite movies is The Untouchables. And I love this story that is definitely tender, right? Because it arouses warm feelings. It's definitely a touching movie. But at the same time, it's very insightful because it makes you think deep about the nature of friendship. This one is also unpretentious, right? Because it's not about celebrities, it's not about famous people or rich people. It's more about human nature. That's why I really love this movie. I also love The Green Book that I watched recently. And this one is a different movie. It's definitely not tender. I would not describe, I'll use this word to describe Green Book. It's more insightful. It's more riveting. It's definitely absorbing, fascinating, gripping at some points. I was actually very interested in the story, and I think this is a very serious film that I would recommend to anyone. All right. And then let's move on to how would we describe a movie in a negative way. If a movie is not very good, or I don't like it very much, I can say it's second-rate, third-rate even, boring, disgusting, brutal, bloody, predictable, weak, violent, senseless, confused, silly, stupid, incredible, tiresome, like boring, juvenile for children, ordinary, static, disappointing, tired, uninteresting. And the new words might be flawed, means characterized by a defect or imperfection. Distasteful, unpleasant, disagreeable. Dreadful means shocking, outraging, awful. Bland means boring, weak, dull, unstimulating. Trite, unoriginal, ordinary, dull. Outrated means old-fashioned, obsolete. Uneven, not balanced, not symmetrical. And the last one is moronic. I don't usually use this word, but we have to know it. Means foolish, absurd, daft. For example, one of DiCaprio's best performances is The Reverend, and you know that he took an Oscar, finally. And everybody praised this movie, but I actually couldn't see it. It was so dreadful, it was so shocking, awful, and I definitely couldn't watch all of it, and I would not recommend it to children, for example. But I can say that the actor's performance is definitely amazing. Another movie that was very famous is The Joker. Again, an example of a story that at some point was even distasteful. I couldn't watch it. And I understand the story behind, the character and what happens in the movie, but I didn't actually enjoy the movie, right? It was definitely moronic to me at some point. So, dear 11th graders, I hope you enjoyed today's video lesson and you learned a lot of useful vocabulary that you can use next time when you describe your favorite movie or a movie that you didn't particularly like. Have a great day and stay with us in our digital library, and see you at the next video lesson.